The rain taps softly against the window while the room stays quiet. The only light comes from your screen. It's late, not dramatic late, just late enough that your thoughts feel louder than the world outside. You're not sad, you're not even upset. You're just tired in a way sleep never seems to fix. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet question keeps looping. Why does everything feel harder than it should, even when you're doing everything right? And ignoring it is exactly why so many people feel burned out without knowing why. That question isn't random, and if you're a millennial, it's probably shaped the way you think more than you realize. You did what you were supposed to do. You studied, you adapted, you stayed flexible when flexibility became a requirement, not a choice. You learned new skills because the old ones stopped mattering overnight. You kept moving because stopping felt risky. And yet, instead of security, there's this constant feeling of being replaceable, like success never fully settles. You didn't fail the system just never stopped moving long enough for success to land. That kind of instability doesn't just affect your career, it conditions your mind. You wake up already thinking, not about big dreams, but small pressures, messages you haven't replied to, work that quietly spills into evenings, the subtle fear that slowing down means falling behind. You want meaning, not just money, freedom, not just survival. And when the thought slips in, is this really it? Guilt arrives fast, because you were taught that questioning means you're ungrateful. That tension, that's not weakness. And here's the part no one really talks about. Most people call this anxiety, but it's not exactly that. I've often wondered why millennials are so self-aware yet so mentally exhausted, why they crave authenticity but feel pressure to perform it online. Psychology points us toward neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated experience. Think of the brain like soft clay. Whatever presses into it long enough leaves a shape. Millennials grew up inside constant transition, childhood without the internet, adulthood ruled by it. One world slow and grounded, the next hyper-connected and relentless. The brain learned to adapt fast, to switch contexts, to stay alert, but it never really learned how to shut off. That's why even in quiet moments, late at night, when nothing is happening, your mind still refuses to power down. Your stress system adapted too. Psychologists call it the HPA axis, but it's basically your brain's internal alarm, like a smoke detector. It's helpful when there's a fire, but exhausting when it keeps going off just in case. Economic crashes, job instability, global crises, constant comparison, hustle culture disguised as worth. The alarm didn't ring once, it rang for years. So now, rest doesn't feel natural, it feels suspicious. And honestly, no wonder slowing down feels uncomfortable. From an evolutionary standpoint, this actually makes sense. The humans who survived weren't the strongest, they were the most alert. The ones who noticed subtle changes, who adapted before danger fully arrived. In unstable environments, sensitivity is an advantage. Millennials inherited that wiring. But instead of predators or famine, the threats became instability, irrelevance, and social exclusion. Different dangers, same ancient brain.
This is where cognitive dissonance quietly does its damage, holding two conflicting truths at once. You were told you could be anything, but shown that not everyone makes it. Encouraged to follow passion, but judged for not monetizing it. Taught to value mental health, but rewarded for burnout. Living like that doesn't break you loudly, it wears you down quietly. Here's the twist most people miss. This isn't a flaw, it's an adaptation. Millennials question systems because they watched systems fail. They resist rigid identities because they grew up during collapse and reinvention. They crave meaning because survival alone stopped feeling like enough. They're not rebellious for attention. They're trying to align their inner values with a world that keeps shifting beneath their feet. But every adaptation has a shadow. The same awareness that fuels empathy also fuels burnout. The same flexibility that enables creativity can dissolve boundaries. When you're always adapting, you forget to anchor. When everything feels temporary, commitment feels risky. And when worth feels tied to output, rest feels like failure. That's a heavy thing to carry quietly. So what do you do with this kind of mind? You don't try to fix it, you work with it. First, regulate the nervous system before trying to change your mindset. Longer exhales, fewer inputs, brief moments of stillness that tell your brain nothing bad happens when you stop. Try this not as a habit, just as an experiment. Even 10 minutes without stimulation can calm the internal alarm more than another productivity trick ever will. Second, shrink your definition of success. Big, distant goals feel unsafe to a brain shaped by instability. Focus on meaning that exists today. One honest conversation, one piece of work that feels aligned, one moment where you feel real. Your nervous system trusts what it can experience now, not abstract promises. Third, stop treating sensitivity like a problem to solve. You're not too much, you're perceptive. The goal isn't to dull that, it's to protect it. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. You don't owe everything your attention, and your attention is powerful. Before this ends, I want to leave you with something simple. No lesson, just a quiet question. When was the last time you measured your life by how alive you felt instead of how productive you were? If the world feels overwhelming, it might be because you're built to notice what others ignore. And if this felt like someone finally put language to something you've carried for years, you're not alone. Share this with someone who thinks deeply, feels intensely, and wonders if they're wired differently. Because they probably are. And that might be exactly what this world needs next.